And I started a... That's not the one I want. Hey, everybody. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Indies for March 21st, 2021. I want to say a very special shout out to two gentlemen and their birthdays this weekend, Mr. AJ Proctor and Mr. ERIK Christopher Myers. Happy birthday to both, and welcome to the Old Fogies Club for the both of you. Get your party favors at the door, and I'll see you in the lounge. That being said, let's hang out with Mr. Joshua Pantalleresco, who's got an indie comic review for us, and then we'll be back with Roundtable.
Hey, everybody. I'm Joshua Pantalleresco. I write stuff, I illustrate, I podcast. We'll just say I'm a dabbler, just for the simplest sake. I'm Joshua Pantalleresco, dabbler extraordinaire. I review comics for firstcomicsnews.com, and Joe has asked me to review one here. It's called The Polar Paradox. It is written by Frank Martin and illustrated by Antonio Mastria. All in all, it's not bad. I'm going to be very honest with you. There are parts I really liked about this issue, and there are parts I didn't. And I'm going to start with the parts I really, really didn't, and then I'm going to share the screen and show you a little bit why I think this book's cool at the same time. So let's talk about, I think, the biggest flaw in the story, which is really, really simple. The three main characters, I have no clue who they are. Literally, I don't have a name, I don't have a rank, I don't have nothing. For the first half of the book, I only know one of the characters' names by the time I'm about 2/3 into the story, because he gets killed. Small spoiler, he gets killed. That, I think, is a really, 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 really big disconnect when you're telling a story, because you don't care so much about the concept of what you're doing. You care about who these characters are and what they want and how to get there. And while the stakes of the story are hit very, very early, I do not know really why these characters care. And that is a big flaw in telling this story. And I feel that needs to be stated up front. Now, that all said, this is a pretty book. And it's a fun book. So I'm going to share the screen here. I'm going to show you guys. Actually, there's another criticism, but I'll get to that in just a second. I'm going to show the really good thing here. It's a pretty book. It's very much a journey to the center of the earth vibe, as you can see here. This is a giant. This is page 12. Bigger thing, and I really love this. Castery, like when we actually went under the sea, as you can see a little bit here, it's pretty, it's magnificent, it's wild, it's strange, it's foreign, right? It's very much a very, very, very cool book. The Polar Paradox, this is a two-part book here, but it's a pretty book. It's very much a cool science fiction story. It wants to be a good science fiction story. And for its part, it's a good one. But it could have been a great one. And I think the other mistake that was made here is I think I would have started in the sea at the very beginning of the story. It's easy for me to criticize because honestly, I know this very much. It's really hard to put any kind of comic book together. But that all said, I feel the story really starts to take flight. You get a sense of stakes. You get a very pretty, dark, journey center of the earth vibe coming when you get to the sea. and I think that's really, really damn cool. And that is that's what this book really wants to be. It wants to be like a horror sci-fi, and when it gets that, it's an amazing book. It's fun. Things happen. Things move forward. It's a great book, right? And the second half of it's really great. The first half is just good. Like I said, I don't know who these characters are, and that's, like I said, that is why I'm going to give this a solid 3 out of 5. It's in the middle. It's a good book. It's the dialogue's good. The story is told very well. The art is spectacular, especially in the second half. It's really, really good. But I feel like the first half of the book, I never get that sense of who the characters are. The only one I know is Omar, the person who hails the ship. So that's my thing. It's 3 out of 5. Solid start. Could have been great, but definitely solid. Kudos to the creative team. I was glad I read the book. And I want to thank Joe for giving me the opportunity to read the book. And that is my review of The Polar Paradox, part 1 of 2. So, if you guys are an indie creator out there and you want me to review your book for Joe, give me a shout. Or give Joe a shout, and Joe will give me a shout, and he'll motivate me, i.e. threaten to beat me, and I'll do a review like this. So, guys, stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. See you guys next time.
And I will say really quickly, if you want to check out Frank Martin's book, I have the link in the description right now. In fact, I have the link to everybody here and everything that we're doing here today. All the links are there already, so go check all those things out and see for yourself. If you're a fan of like the Deep Blue Sea or it's not like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it has a little bit of that, but it's really more of a horror vibe to it. So I think you dig that if you like that. So go check that out. And I didn't want to piggyback on Josh's review, but I just wanted to mention the link thing. That being said, welcome to the round table, everybody. And we have quite the interesting topic to discuss today. It's a little bit more off the beaten path than we normally stray to, but I think that it has some indie value to it that I think we'll discuss. And to help me do that, I have a wonderful group as always, amazing group here with me. We've got the veteran panel, and for once, the men are out flanking the women for once, but Megan is super awesome, so we're happy to have her here with us too. So.
I'll bring it. I can hold my own. It's all good.
Even without a beard.
I have no doubts. I have no worries about that at all. All right. That being said, let's introduce everybody. JD, why don't you get us started?
Greetings, fellow humans. I am Double O Bananas. I am also the author of The Human Cycle, which is Only Human in Shadow of a Human. I'm a Puerto Rican indie author that decided it was the best idea in the world to move to Atlanta so I could see the world pandemic up close in case the zombie apocalypse starts, like in The Walking Dead.
All right. Alexander?
Hey guys, I'm Alexander Gideon. I'm a writer of dark fantasy, historical fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. My writing style can best be summed up by the phrase, and many people died. First book in my Books of the Law series, Web of Crimson, is out now. It's from the Shadow Council archives from Falstaff Books. Really great kind of shared universe series. Featuring different folk heroes and people from history. Web of Crimson, and this series is about Aleister Crowley.
Come on, you know what I'm waiting for.
My signature line? I already said my signature line. You missed it.
Oh, did you? I missed it. I don't know where my brain was. I apologize for that. All right. Old man, Mr. EKM is here. Hello, sir.
Greeting, friends and enemies. Joe, thank you very much for the preemptive birthday wishes. I appreciate that very much. My name is Eric Christopher Myers, aka EKM, aka E-Rock, as the kids say. I am a writer-director. I've made films Roulette and Butterfly Kisses. I've been in like some books and stuff, and I also write for Ain't It Cool News, usually on the topics of franchise history and genre theory. And since a little bird told me we're going to be talking about social media today, and I am now officially an old man, I've come armed with scotch. So this should be a fun time.
Ooh, nice vintage too. I love that one. That's
Ardbeg is good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited you're here because you know, I mean, this topic is more on the journalism side, so it's kind of cool that we have an actual journalist here. So it's nice. All right, Megan.
I am Megan Morgan. I am the author of The Altered Wake and the upcoming In Editing Hell Altered Rise. Eric and I keep talking about, like, why is this character doing what they're doing? Why isn't everyone understanding why this character is doing what they're doing? And now we have to figure it out and find more beta readers. So anyway, that's where I am. And yeah, I'm here and I'm very happy to be.
At the risk of patting myself on the back, I hope that anyone who reads the upcoming Altered Rise can at least detect a glimmer of a shadow of the man who sat in the background off to the side cracking the whip going, no, you're not allowed to watch Batman with me until you finish editing those chapters tonight. Crack, crack, crack. So,
okay, that brings up a lot of questions. First up, what version of Batman are we talking about?
89, buddy. Batman 89.
All right.
Come on.
Good. Yeah, Michael Keaton, and that's it.
I
starts and ends there.
I am one of those people who can objectively understand, and for those of you who really want to go down the nerdy rabbit hole, the one under Wayne Manor that's filled with bats, I have written an entire series on Batman for Ain't It Cool News, and one of my fierce positions is the fact that I can objectively understand that 2 of the Christopher Nolan movies might be better than the original Tim Burton film. However, the original Tim Burton film, best Batman, best Batsuit, best Bat voice, best Gotham City, best overall production design, best score. It's
got Prince. It's got Prince.
It's got Prince. It's got Prince.
You were to say something, Megan?
The best Batmobile. And
Yes.
what I determined yesterday when we watched Batman Returns is that it is not a Batman movie. It is a Catwoman movie, and a very interesting one.
Yeah, that's a good take. I like that.
I wrote an article about that movie in which I posited that Batman Returns is actually it's a Christmas Carol. It's the Dickens story with each of the 3 villains reflecting the ghost of Bruce Wayne, past, present, and future. And if you sort of watch it in that sense, it becomes very, very interesting. Just I find that, you know, the 2 Burton films, flawed as they are, if you watch the original movie with the sort of headcanon that Jack Napier did not kill the Waynes, that rather Bruce Wayne is imprinting upon basically every villain that he is going after, the face of the killer who got away. That if you take it from that perspective, and also with Batman Returns, if you look at it as a stealth remake of A Christmas Carol, they're fascinating films. And that's more than I can say for the Nolan films. And again, objectively, 2 of them are fantastic and better made films. But are they as interesting? And that's what it comes down to.
None of them have the French flipper trick.
Or blood spurting from your nose.
And I would say that the villains in Nolan's films are a little bit more well defined than in Burton's films, but that's by design because of the nature of the way that Burton presents things anyway. So he kind of likes to do that thing where, like, you're not so sure who is, you know, the good guy, bad guy, but this has a little bit more sing to it, you know, a little bit more of the Edward Scissorhands kind of, not so much ambiguity as you would get from a Tim Burton movie as you can. I know, I just fucking just blew everybody's mind. But anyway, that being said, speaking of blowing minds, Facebook and Twitter are at war, and I'm not so sure that we're all going to benefit at the end of the day from it. It was earlier announced this week that Facebook and Twitter are both in a competing sense for journalistic integrity. They're looking to bring in independent journalism and, give them a platform in a very, very odd and interesting manner in which they're doing it, to be as kind as I can be about that, in which would have some implications and some resignation for me in the indie world. And I've had many conversations with many people this week about this, and I seem to be alone. So I don't know, how the panel feels. So I'm kind of curious, when you read this, did you feel like, this was all about, really, truly, this is about journalism. This is what they're aiming for. They're aiming for independent journalists. And of course, this is Facebook's fight with Australia as well. There's an intertwining story with Australia and Facebook and that idea. So, but they did clickbait it with some self-publishing titles, which we can get into the clickbaiting aspect of it as well. But there is an aspect of it that I do worry about, and so I'm just curious if you guys have that sense as well, or were you kind of just going fuck. Oh, this is terrible. Oh my God. Or wow. Or, I'm just curious what your reaction was to reading this.
Well, the majority of people already get their news from Facebook, and Twitter as well. Like, social media is now the vast majority of people's primary source for their news. So this is a move that, technically has sort of, it's already happened. And I feel like Twitter and Facebook are just sort of making it official, and then of course doing what they do best and monetizing it. This is something that they say in the entertainment industry all the time, is that if you aren't paying for a product, then you're the product. And this is 100% true of Facebook. Facebook, you don't have to pay for it, you get to use it. So what are they getting from you then? They are getting you basically create the content on Facebook for other people to view, and then they add ads on top of it that you either have to see, or even in the case of indie authors who are trying to advertise their books, to even get a post on a business website out to your viewers, the people who already follow you, you have to pay for that. So it's very much an attention economy. I think it's always problematic. It's a good thing that we now have news sources that can come to us, without necessarily the filters of sort of the powers that be. This is a good thing. However, I think that, and this is always an issue with indie publishing too, is that if there aren't any stopgaps and there aren't any checks, and it's going directly from the newsmaker to you, then who's checking the sources? It then puts sort of the responsibility for, it's multiple things. It then puts the responsibility for, making sure that the news you're getting is accurate on you, the viewer. And it puts a lot, Facebook will now be making money from it. And then you, the viewer, the reader, now you're responsible for doing your own fact checking. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that journalism voices that maybe aren't typically heard. And this is always the good thing about the publishing industry opening up. People who don't usually get to be published get to be published, but then you, the consumer, are sort of left with the job of making sure that, the content that you're getting is of a high quality or is accurate. So yeah, that's always the issue. The whole Australia thing has been insane. I listen to the podcast Opening Arguments all the time, and they had a whole discussion on the legal entanglements because they couldn't even advertise in Australia. Their listeners in Australia couldn't even visit their Facebook site because they're a podcast and they were considered a business in Australia. And like just sort of shut down for a while. So yeah, it's real tricky. There are lots of like legal stuff, and then also, you know, like I said, it's always good that new voices can get out there, but then you always have to raise question marks over how Facebook is monetizing things, which I think is not necessarily good for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's so well thought out. For me, anything that has the surname Facebook already makes me twitch.
Yeah.
Because in terms
pun
of
intended.
now, every time when it comes to functionality, the bottom of the barrel is Facebook. Ask anyone who has an author or business page how to get to their notifications. It is quite the show, and you know, it's basically an RPG just to get to the stuff that people are commenting on, not even entering into what Megan talked about in terms of reaching your audience. You know, most of us have to post on our author or business page and then share on our personal page just to get any sort of traction, and that's just ridiculous. The whole people getting their news from Facebook, yes, people should fact check. No, people don't. People don't fact check. They look something that will substantiate their opinion, and they double down on that, and they bark louder, and that's how they make an argument most times. And then you present facts, and they kick off, and they say, yeah, but you know, hashtag voodoo scientist said that, you know, this, and so obviously it's true. And if you have a proper set, and if you dabble into neurolinguistics and you can have a great facade, that's how people who offer questionable information do damage. And it's just, you know, if there's something that's gonna, in terms of opening up, that's a good thing. In terms of regulation and who can post and what people will follow and etc., if people were more responsible, it would be a fantastic thing. Since human behavior is not to, you know, check all the boxes and do things right, I do worry about where it's going to lead off. And having Twitter and Facebook face off and anything is just a disgusting sentence all in itself.
Yes. Mr. Gideon, Mr. Myers, come on, I know you have thoughts.
Something I thought was interesting is that it's labeled as free to use. And that's one of the things that I'm interested to see how that's actually going to play out. Now, I'm sure that they're going to take their cut of whatever that you're getting in money-wise, but it's also, you know, how much are they going to take? And is this going to allow them to eliminate some other competition? Like, we're talking about Twitter and Facebook, but, you know, this sounds a whole lot like Patreon to me. A lot like Patreon, a lot like MailChimp as well, because they're giving options of putting out your newsletters as well. So it seemed like two different things where you can have like the kind of Patreon page where you're, you know, can post as much as you want and whatever you want, and also have the email newsletter that goes out on top of that. So it seems like they're combining everything into one package, and it's like, is that going to eliminate other sites? And could this possibly be an easier way for authors to get their information out? Because, you know, Facebook groups are already one of the things that I know a lot of authors are having success with, about getting readers, getting information out there on top of using Patreon and that kind of thing. And now it's like, if you have a Facebook group that leads people to Patreon, and now can be your Patreon, how is that going, you know, how is that going to affect the game there? The other concern that I have is I love the fact that more, you know, voices can be out there. I think that can be a good thing. Mm-hmm. But it's also what kind of voices are going to be out there, because Facebook already has a problem with a certain kind of people that are getting their voices heard out there, who are now going to be able to monetize and put even more content out there. That is not going to be a good thing. You know, we had a whole incident a couple months ago because of some of these voices, and yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing to allow them more platform.
I'm glad that Mr. Gideon sort of went down that path, because he sort of opened the door to my central conceit. And that is that, I mentioned last week when I was on that something I've been enjoying very much is, as he was saying about Facebook groups, discovering that as a filmmaker, as a horror filmmaker, there are Facebook groups out there filled with people who are talking about, among other films, my films. And so it's very easy for me to go pop in and, say, do an AMA, which, gets a lot of conversation going and helps, new people discover the film, and existing fans, you're able to sort of reach them. And it's really, really cool. And, it just helps to sort of build your name and build your brand while also interacting directly with your audience. I love these things about Facebook, and it's great. However, I have spent perhaps 4 of the past 8 months suspended from Facebook. And suspended from Facebook, not because I was out there, aggressively attacking people or, posting hate speech rhetoric or anything along those lines. In fact, quite the opposite. I am currently blocked from Facebook right now for the fact that I posted on my page a condemnation of people who feel that their white privilege is somehow under attack. That is apparently harassment and bullying. And so something I posted on my page that did not single anyone out in particular, but rather was talking about a sort of mindset, has got me suspended for 30 days. Before that, I was suspended for 30 days at the beginning of this year because I told an ableist, and if you don't know what ableism is, it's discriminating against people with disabilities. I told an ableist who was posting ableist rhetoric that they were being an ableist, and that was considered hate speech and bullying. So it's very difficult for me to sort of look at the pluses or the minuses of Facebook authorized or Facebook inspired, Facebook divined publishing schemes when you can't even go on to this particular platform and say, hey, stop being a piece of shit because the things that you're saying are sexist, racist, ableist, whatever that might be. So in the spirit of that, I am drinking from my glass that encourages you to stand up for what you believe in. And Facebook, if you're watching, I am wearing one of my favorite new articles of clothing.
Nice.
So if you'd like to suspend me and add another 30 days to it, you may.
The thing about it is that it's not.
You're gonna get Joe in trouble.
It's not Facebook that I don't give a crap. It's not Facebook though. It's the people that you're engaging with that report you, and then that's when you get in trouble.
But if you can test it, which I have, I receive an ID number saying, this is case number blah blah blah, and so person has reviewed your stance, which is this isn't hate speech or bullying or harassment.
Yeah.
It's quite the opposite. It's saying, please don't post these things about people with disabilities. Please don't post these things about people of color. Don't say sexist things. And it's not even, saying it in the way perhaps I'm wearing it on my shirt. Sometimes it can be gentler and kinder than that, even though these people don't deserve kinder and gentler interaction. And yet, nonetheless, I'm sorry?
I'm lubricated.
And I think that we've sort of come to a point, especially in the last year, where a lot of us are sort of like, because our actual social interactions have been so limited, a lot of people are sort of like, we're existing in social media. A lot of more people started podcasts. A lot more people, have been doing like TikTok. A lot more people have been engaging on these platforms as basically their exclusive method of socialization. And then I've seen a lot of people, as we've had a lot of sort of like cultural upheaval in this last year, People who are trying to tackle specific topics on Facebook have discovered that, for example, if they post the words white people together in a post because they're trying to discuss sort of like culturally what are the issues with what white people are doing, because there are issues there. And even if their post is not a shitty post, it will still get banned and flagged. Like, phrase together, if you start talking about like white people, you are very, very likely to get censored. And yeah, we can't talk about it as being government censorship. It's, you don't have the freedom to say whatever you want on Facebook because they technically have the right to control what is and is not being said on their platform. But then when the vast majority of people are getting their news there, and now we're sort of seeing a shift to where now Facebook is controlling from their end this news that is going out, and they're controlling the journalism. And we sort of see this shift of it's going more and more into their hands. And they're also censoring very specific types of things and sometimes not censoring other kinds of things. Or at least if they are censoring it, it's too late. It's already out the door. Then, like we how do we as a culture like deal with that? Because we are living in a time where there are these narratives out there now that, people very much believe that are completely and totally disconnected from reality. It is completely possible to sort of like not just go down a rabbit hole, but create your own world now on social media where your facts are different. And I don't see this, this idea of Facebook having, their own power to publish news without, editors checking it and stuff. It can get really dangerous really fast. And it already has been really dangerous really fast. And that's with, news sources being checked, or at least, when you read something from, specific news sites, you know what the agenda is, and like either you're for it or against it, but you know what it is. You also know when you go read an article by NPR that it's probably going to be pretty middle of the road and pretty factual. And if you're getting it from like the APA, then it's like basically nothing but bare bones facts, and it's boring and dry as hell. And this idea that like anyone can then like go through Facebook, we got to raise some question marks over that, because is it really going to be anyone? Probably not, because we're already seeing censorship of very specific types of speech, and it's usually people who are like calling out white people. I think that it's definitely been very interesting to see what gets censored and what does not.
But that's the problem I keep butting up against, which is the fact that I hardly consider myself a social justice warrior. I consider myself an over-the-hill punk rocker. And, I still ride a skateboard, I still play punk music, and I still, wear a fuck Trump shirt. But that's coming, from a place that I would like to consider an informed position. And, it's one thing to just rage against the machine because you're an adolescent. It's another thing to see something that's wrong and to call it out, and to try to call it out intelligently. And I'm noticing this pattern where you're not able to call things out intelligently. You are not able to, the very people who will accuse you of being triggered are the ones who are immediately triggered. It's again, I realize that we're sort of getting backed up and clogging the pipe here in terms of the conversation at hand, but it's almost a problem of how do we look at problems with, potential publishing and getting your brand as an author or a filmmaker or anything else like that out there, when Facebook is sort of arbitrarily deciding what is acceptable and what is not acceptable to post, to share, and to contest. I have flagged many things that I've seen that have been direct attacks on women or people of color or various things like that, and I'm told, no, sorry, that anti-trans picture that somebody posted, that's not offensive. But me saying, as Megan pointed out, by putting the words white and people together and saying, white people are fucking ridiculous if they think that their privilege is under attack right now. Oh my God, there's black people in Star Wars now. It's anybody that sort of feels that way, to call that out and, to be said that is harassment or hate speech. It's like, how do you even look down the road past that?
And I don't want to dismiss the conversation that's going on here, but the other thing that I'm finding too is, or I'm thinking about with all this, is how much news are they going to lay out onto my news feed, and how much more am I going to get buried on my own news feed? I mean, you're really taking away my ability to earn a living if I'm trying to be a professional writer or author or filmmaker or anything. If I'm trying to be an artist and you're basically telling me if I don't pay for it, nobody else is going to see it already, and then you're going to bury me even further, how much more you're alienating the very people that really made this platform popular to begin with, and you're destroying any goodwill or good nature you would have by banning us from speaking out and being vocal, but also burying us for what we do and how we do it, just because we didn't pay for it, which was not the intention of Facebook to begin with. So, but it's now become that. It's become this monetization machine. And I get it. For indie journalists, there is some good here, because then they can get something for what they're trying to put out there. And
question, is anybody here buying ads? Does anybody here buy Facebook ads for their books or their films or whatever they do, or for this show? Can't afford it?
No, not to the extent where it would matter.
Yeah.
I do a little bit anytime a book comes out, like a few. I've been doing it less so because it seems increasingly less effective. I think for a while there, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when it first started being a thing that you could advertise on Facebook, I think that you could reach people, but then they sort of made it more and more difficult for the money you spent to go any amount of distance. Because basically, like I said earlier, what started happening was that instead of your ad being pushed out to a general audience, it was just you were paying for the people who already follow your page, who already know about you and the stuff you're doing, to see your ads. And basically, your information wasn't, if you had a business page, it wasn't being seen at all unless you paid for it. And so, yeah, at first you could advertise and you could reach a new audience potentially. Now it's like you're just paying so that the viewers you already have can actually see your content, which is nonsense.
And a lot of times, like with the cost of those ads, a lot of times you can reach a bigger audience, but you already have to be doing pretty well for yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're like me, I've got one book out. I'm in a handful of anthologies, and yeah, I've earned my SIF1 membership, but that doesn't mean that I have a huge audience. I mean, I can count on like one hand my sales in the last month currently, just because books been out. There's not much that I can push out advertising wise. Most of the people have already bought that one. I don't have the next one coming out, so I can't, it's not going to be effective for me to push some of the other advertising abilities that I've got. But you look at Facebook ads and it's like, you want to reach 1,000 people and it's like $500. And it's like, if I was already making a good enough money where that return would actually happen, and I was, had the reviews. But if I put an ad out and someone is like, oh, let me click this one, and I've got 6 Amazon reviews currently, no one's gonna buy my book. I am way too new into the game to make it work, and B, just don't have the money to invest in it to get a return.
You guys want to hear something funny? So I signed a deal with my publisher, Three Furious Press, to republish my first book and revamp it, and I'm adding a couple extra chapters in there. So I took it down from Amazon. I've had three private messages going, "Hey, how do I buy your first book?" I'm going, dude, it's been out for fucking almost 10 years now. And you have, and I've known you for long, for a while, maybe not 10 years, but you've known that I had this book. And now when I take it down, you're asking me where it is. It's like, I can't win.
In terms of that comment, Joe, is your book on iBooks? Is your book on Google Books? Do you have an audiobook version of your book? And I'm like, I can't do everything to please everyone. And right. You know what? If you want the water, here's the oasis. Come to me, because I am done doing everything that is being asked of me, and I'm just doing what either gets results or makes me happy. And a lot of why don't you go wide? Because I got on Drafted Digital one sale, and I was promoting the hell out of it, and then people went like, "Oh, it's cool that you're on Drafted Digital. Let me buy it on Kindle." And I'm like,
what was the point?
Well, let me tell you. Here's the sad truth, and it's obviously different for a filmmaker than it is for an author. Sure. In terms of trying to get your work out there. Film is a much easier investment in a blind buy, because you spend 90 minutes, 2 hours, or whatever it is watching something, and if you don't like it, whatever, that was 90 minutes of your life. A book, that could be 9 days of reading. That could that is a much bigger and greater and more intensive, dedicated sort of investment that a person has to make. Now, it is very, very cool that I am finding that rather than having to buy Facebook ads, I am again typing in sort of keywords and going, okay, my movie is a meta deconstruction of the found footage genre, so I'm going to go to found footage on Facebook, and I find groups where people are talking about that stuff, and I walk in, and I just got a notification this morning that there's a whole thread in one of these groups about my movie right now. I can't fucking participate in it because you're not allowed to talk. But with that being said, it's very cool that I can go direct to the source, and that's really nifty. The problem with that is that something that we all sort of already knew, but is just being further hammered home for me, is the fact that people don't want to buy things. People do not want to buy things. They don't want to buy your book, JD. They don't want to buy the fucking anthology you're in, Mr. Gideon. They don't want to buy Megan's fucking shit. They don't want to pay for things. People are only going to buy a book if there is a name on the cover they recognize. Stephen King, Tom Clancy, something like Danielle Steele, something that is very, very bankable. John Grisham.
And they still don't want to buy those. They'll look for the cheapest version of it.
It's the whole wait till it comes out in paperback mentality. And I'm speaking as somebody who has more books than anything else in my home. Now, for filmmakers, it's a whole other enchilada, because you can find free versions of movies. You don't have to go to the dark web. You can just go to a torrent site and you can download that stuff. And, I go to these groups typing in those key phrases, and I'm like, I wonder if anybody's talking about my movie. I'll go in and engage. And when you start talking to people, fans, I don't want to, it sounds very pretentious and very self-aggrandizing to say fans of your work. But when you go and you interact with people that have read or watched your stuff, those people tend to appreciate when the creator comes down off the mountain and interacts with them directly. It's a very good thing, and I recommend everybody at this roundtable and anybody else that might be watching who is a creator, go to where your audience is and interact with those people. They dig it. They want to talk about it. It excites people that have not read or watched your stuff. And they go, now I got to check this out. It's better than buying Facebook ads. Nonetheless, you will discover immediately that people are looking for free versions of stuff, and there are people who are happy to point them the way to go. I cannot count for you the number of times that I have had entirely too much scotch, sat down and Googled my movie, gone to just one BitTorrent site and counted the number of illegal downloads, and then multiplied that by $19.95 for a Blu-ray, $14.95 for a DVD, and considered how much money I didn't make. The harsh reality is, and it's even worse for authors, trying to get your work out there. If you don't have that hook, it doesn't matter how much you monetize your ad. It does not matter, you know, what you try to do. We have this handicap in that none of us are superstars, and none of us have superstars on the cover or on the DVD box or whatever.
I'll add in there, and I can't believe this is gonna come out of my mouth, but I will add in there that I've recently discovered that there is a platform that's pretty good for narrowing down genre and narrowing down specific topics, and it's Goodreads. I did not know about all these groups, and they're active and they're talking, and I put it out there, and people are responding. I'm really surprised. I was really surprised by it, as antiquated and as horrible as that website is, and I will never stop talking about how bad that website is. That thing is, I could make a better HTML site in my sleep than that fucking site. But that site, for some reason, is gravitating, and it's not authors. It's not just authors. There's lots of just readers there, just reader people. I mean, people who just read, who have never written a book or written anything before. I highly recommend it. I know it's super boring and painful to go through that site, but go to groups, type in at the top. They have the little search bar. Type in your genre, type in a subject. You'll find a group for it. I've not been failed yet. I've done it every single time, and it's worked every single time. So I am now a converted Goodreads person for that respect. And I will also say, Eric, it's not just movies that have this problem. If you type in your book, you will see there's 4,000 different pirated sites that hold your book and then give it to you for free. And it's like, I also have an audiobook, and there is an actual YouTube video of my audiobook just out there. And I keep looking at it to make sure nobody's viewing it, because, you know, YouTube refuses to take it down. But it's like, it's out there. It exists. So,
and here's what kills me. If people want to watch my movie, you can buy the Blu-ray. Folks, please buy the Blu-ray. And put it on your shelf. It's a handsome cover. It's lovely. But if you don't want to buy it, if you have Amazon, which almost everybody does, it's streaming for free. And if you don't want to watch it there, you can go on Tubi. And if you don't have one of these streaming platforms, it's like $3 to rent. It's not so bad. Now, if you want to know what, you know, Megan's book is about, you can type in the title and, you know, or JD's book or anything else. You just do that on Google, and you can get, through Amazon or through Google Books or whatever, you can read the first couple of pages. You can get a sample of it. The opportunity for you to sort of, you know, to get these things inexpensively, it's there. But people would rather try to find a way to get something for free. And unfortunately, that is one of the things that we butt up against. And as we're talking about Facebook, and as we're talking about whether you buy ads or, you know, what the algorithms allow to be pushed out there or not, a lot of times that tease, that sample, whatever it is, the hook that gets somebody aware of what we do and puts it on their radar, then they go, how do I get this without paying for it? And that fucks all of us.
Yeah.
If you're watching, you're fucking all of us.
And people don't realize also, if you go to Amazon Prime, if you have Amazon Prime and you go watch Butterfly Kisses or Roulette right now, which I highly recommend you do both. And I would have a film festival with Mr. EKM. And we've done a watch along, and it was awesome. To do both of those, he gets a little taste of that from, and you don't have to pay for it. You're helping the artist. You're helping him, you know, do that. So, you know, if you're going to do it for free, why not help the artist while you're doing it? You know, I mean,
well, because that's the thing. It's like, you know, to make a movie, I've got to be able to pay cast and crew.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can come up with deals in which you don't pay them up front, you pay them on the back end, but there's got to be a back end. And for everybody here that writes books, those of you who are approaching this sensibly, you are finding an editor to go through your work. You're finding somebody to do the cover art. You are making sure that your book is formatted. And if you're not equipped, if you don't have the skill set to make sure that your book looks good when you open it up, you find somebody else who can, because you can smell self-publishing the minute that you catch a whiff of it. It's same thing with independent film. If it's not done right, it looks bad. It looks wrong, and people can smell that and detect that. You have to create an air of authenticity so that people say, this book looks like just the same one that I would get at Barnes & Noble, or this movie looks like something I would go see at AMC. You've got to do it the right way, but that costs money. And unfortunately, if you're trying to rob it out of somebody's pocket, there might not be another book or another movie.
So people are spoiled. To that point, I'll be brief. People have been spoiled beyond belief when it comes to music and movies and books. I grew up not, having a cheaper lunch so I would have money to buy albums. Whereas people now listen to how many albums a day. And the value that they put into the art is nowhere near, for what I can perceive, what it means to me. That's why I have my favorite albums, and most of them are from the 90s. I grew up with that, and I had to sacrifice to get that music. And I found comfort in that. And right now, it's the rule of excess. And everyone wants everything, and they'll buy 99-cent ebooks and not read them. I'm guilty of that. What I have done during the pandemic is that everything that I've bought, I'm trying to work through it, read and review. People leave reviews; they help. It is shocking, I know, but they do help. But everyone wants everything for free, or they like the challenge of finding it for free. Oh, I was naughty. I got this for free. It's a weird version of that fetish of stealing stuff. It's like, oh my God, I'm such a bad kleptomaniac when it comes to free online stuff. And yes, I have pirated music and whatnot in my heyday. Audio Galaxy was my jam, and I would leave the computer connected, downloading endlessly stuff. But then if I liked something enough, I was at least decent enough to buy it.
Yeah. And maybe some of you are a little too young for this, and some people in the chat might be too young for this, but there was a day in that time, and Mr. Myers and I probably shared this affinity.
What are you saying, that I'm old and everybody else is not?
I'm saying you're cultured is what I'm saying. You're very
okay. All right.
But what I'm saying is there was a time when we looked forward to going to a movie where we had to stand in line to get into that movie. Going to a concert to get actual physical concert tickets, you had to literally camp out the night before in some of these instances to get in line to get just a wristband that would not guarantee you a good spot, but at least give you a ticket to the concert. I mean, these were all cultural things that we experienced that I know made the love for for me, it all started when I was 8 years old, standing in line with my father, who decided to make this a Sunday morning ritual. Right after we went to brunch, we would go and see a movie, and standing in line, I can remember it to this day, for Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark at 8 years old, and thinking to myself, all these people are here to watch this amazing thing, and then to be in the theater and just absorb it. Obviously it's never left me and stuck with me all these years, and it's the reason why I love what I do and who I am, and that is so important. And we're robbing our youth of that opportunity, and it's sad. It's sad to feel like that.
I was bringing it back around to the very beginning of this conversation where we talked about Tim Burton's Batman. I was just telling Megan and my son yesterday about, being a teenager and being old enough to go to the movies by myself without my parents in 1989 when that film came out, and that it was like, making those. making those plans with friends to show up at the theater early and get in line and camp out and get those seats on opening day. And that was a thing you had to do. Now it's like you camp out in front of, Google and the AMC website, refreshing and waiting to buy those tickets.
Mm-hmm.
But, there was a time when to get concert tickets, to get movie tickets, you had to be there. You had to be present in a way that we don't anymore. And it was a beautiful thing. I love the convenience, but there's also something earned about working for that experience.
That particular movie was my freshman ditch day. Every single person in our class, not if you didn't go to this, you were a loser. You were the guy we would punish for not going. So every single person in our class ditched the last day of school, because it came out on the last day of school, to watch the premiere of 1989 Tim Burton's Batman. And we were all at the theater, and we completely packed that theater, and poor people who couldn't get in, suckers, we were there first, and we took over, and it was awesome. That was and then we did that every single year for another movie till I was a senior. And
that was the story I was just telling them. June 16th, 1989. It was the last day of school, and yes. Yeah, it was special. So, it was awesome.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, you know what else is amazing, everybody? We'll be back with some more great banter, but we also have the incredible CL Cannon doing what she does for us every single week, which just is also very amazing. And she's got an incredible book to give you some indie connections to. So enjoy this indie connection, and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, CL Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bring you another indie connection. Today I'm going to be telling you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. The first book I have for you is called The Perfect Secret by Stina Holmes. She has a killer of a secret she's just dying to tell. Everyone has secrets, some deadlier than others. She was on cloud 9 after accepting an offer of a lifetime. A simpler life than she was accustomed to. What could go wrong? Starla Bishop learned to survive in the foster care to jail system in New York City. There she learned the tools and skills she put to work later on to con jewel thieves, drug traffickers, and mobsters out of their fortunes. Now, fresh out of her latest stint in jail, she accepts a too-good-to-refuse offer, a perfect life on a silver platter. Starla has everything she's ever wished for. A simpler life, a normal life, a new start with a new job, a straight job, as a receptionist for Soil and Springs Landscaping, run by a famous botanist. And it got even better, a whirlwind romance and engagement to her boss's charming ex-husband. But everything comes with a price. When bodies start turning up in the garden of her employer, Soil and Springs Landscaping, Starla and her fiancé are hauled into jail for questioning. The revelation of Starla's secret previous life and her special skills make her a prime suspect. How much does Starla want the perfect life? And did she use her special skills to keep it? Or is this just her biggest con yet? The shocking truth is closer than anyone thinks. Everyone has secrets, some worth killing for. The second book I have for you is called Big Bad by Christian Gallagher. At the height of a blizzard, Molly Rifkin goes missing. When she is found dead of an apparent suicide, the story doesn't add up. There are more questions than answers, and there are people who want the whole thing to just go away. What are they covering up? What really happened to Molly Rifkin that night? Molly's sister is FBI agent Emma Shane, who has been hanging onto her career by a thread. When she learns of her sister's suspicious death, she travels to the small New England community of Rockcliffe Island to begin her own investigation. As Emma digs deeper into the mystery on the island, not only will she come face to face with corruption, murder, and downright evil, but she will be forced to confront the gruesome childhood that she and her sister shared in order to discover the truth and the course of her own future. The third book I have for you is called Matters of Consequence by Kimberly Rice. Four friends learn the true ties that bind them are the secrets they keep from each other. Veda finds solace and importance in her role as a nucleus for the close-knit group that includes her best friend Kat, her brother Brian, and his wife, Christy. Veda's husband is not part of their group, and there's a reason why, but she prefers concentrating on their lives and hiding the faults in her own. Kat is someone people are drawn to, a free spirit who usually acts spontaneously. To run from all the unasked for attention, she goes against her nature and makes questionable choices that force her to rethink her actions and their effect on others. Brian pursues having it all, the dream job, beautiful companion and child, only not with his wife. Just when he thinks he's ready to make a change, tragedy occurs. Christy is determined to hang on to the life she's cultivated. Her willingness to look the other way comes at a cost. When a suspicious car accident leaves one of them fighting for their life, their secrets start to unravel, and they uncover harsh truths that lead to a chain of consequences for them all. And the last book I have for you is called Left Hanging by Maria Franklin. Marriage is a coin with two sides, one joyful, one deadly. Carrie's focus is on fitting in, while safeguarding the lifestyle she's always craved. With a handsome, affluent husband, twin boys, and her own successful business, it seems as though nothing could ever flip her coin. Ed fears their marriage is a sham and that he is living a lie. The death of a local man seemingly acts as a catalyst for his sudden actions. He abandons his family home and begins an existence of instability and loneliness. The events that have brought Carrie and Ed to their current predicament start to unravel. Their marital coin lands, the deadly side facing very much upwards.
Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on The New Connection. Bye.
All right. Thank you to CL Cannon for that wonderful another indie connection. It was great to see some people I know be part of it, so that's cool. And I wanted to also bring in other people I know, which is all of you, and bring in your comments here as we wrap things up a little bit. And so Miss Stewart says, I was part of a discussion about the Facebook announcement, and the overall consensus is no one trusted Facebook.
Right.
And then she also commented, don't get me started about contesting a ban on Facebook. They don't listen. Mr. Regine Nabib said, and then Facebook crash. YouTube it is. Better comments in here anyway. And then he says, EKM will back me up on this as an old white person. Old white people are the problem.
You're goddamn right, sir.
Kate Evans says that she has had a Goodreads account for years, and people like to discuss and share and help on there. I don't know about the help part. They're a little slow on the uptake, especially the Goodreads people. Not the people who interact in the groups. They're all very, very great and awesome. But like the actual like technical support there, it's a pain in the butt sometimes with them. Because I know some friends who have been trolled a lot. I don't know if you all heard about this at some point a couple of years ago. There was this trolling group that decided to put upon themselves as Goodread fanatics that they didn't feel like any book should ever get all 5 stars. So if they went and searched for books that had all 5 stars and then put 1-star reviews on every single one of them to kind of bring down their total, their average, and trolled the hell. I have had friends who were affected by that, and it's kind of like, well, all right. And Goodreads was like, they can do whatever they want. They're readers, they're fans, so they can.
Can they do that on Amazon so we can all reach 50 reviews and then appear in more searches?
Yeah, I'll take a trolling 1-star review right now, please.
Can I just point out the incongruous sort of, if you have that much time and you have that much energy and you have that much self-initiation, fucking do something with that. Create something of your own. Make something, or go out there, help a little old lady cross the street, clean up some trash that's on the side of your road. Do something positive with that time. If you really want to affect change, affect change that is going to be reflective in your life. Don't try to tear somebody else down.
Yeah.
If I were to say that on Facebook right now, I'd get banned again. So because unfortunately, it's a perfectly rational thing, and rational speech gets you suspended. I've learned.
Yes, as I will be sure not to be broadcasting from Facebook next week, thanks to this conversation. But that's all right. I'm all no, not because of you. I'm as guilty as anybody here. I think just navigating Goodreads waters. This is from some guy named JD Estrada Writer. I don't know who that guy is, which is beyond my comprehension. And
that's a sexy picture. That black and white picture. That's a sexy picture. Who is that guy?
It is a sexy picture. That's back when you actually had a haircut. It's amazing.
Now I have a ponytail.
Yeah, you're getting close to the man bun too, which is awesome. I can't wait for that. You've got to come on when you've got the you've got to come on. We've got to have a man bun off. We're gonna do like instead of a wet t-shirt contest, we're gonna do a man bun contest.
Oh Lord.
But you have to decide where you're spending your time. Maybe Goodreads is something you can do. AF Stewart said, "Yep, in line chatting with people about when doors open." Awesome. Camped out and stood in line for Phantom Menace. That burned my impulse out of me forever. Camped out for the wrong movie. That's the problem.
Still the best one of the prequels.
True. Very true. Very true. Although I've grown to appreciate, we can have this conversation another time, but I've grown to appreciate Revenge of the Sith a little bit.
I will fight anyone who says that Phantom Menace is the worst one of the prequels. Which is like saying which is, the best piece of shit and the worst piece of shit in the pile, but that is the best piece of shit.
Right. Which one go on a little bit better is how I put it. Yeah. As people do chat on there, I would say find a group or two and interact with them. I suspect if you build relationships with people, they might bring you new. Hey, how about that novel concept, everybody? I mean, that's not something that we've ever talked about on this show before, right? To-do list for week March 22nd. That's number 2 because growing man buns should be number 1.
Yeah, but at least for me, in regards to Goodreads and Kate's comment, it's a place where I haven't done that. It's a place, I've done it on Twitter, I've done it on Facebook, I've done it on YouTube, I've done it on Instagram, and I've interacted with people. In Goodreads, it just eludes my sense of understanding of how to engage people in a way where, again, notifications on that website are a bit dicey. Interacting in a group is just something that I tried way back when, and I was like, wow, this is not working. And it was, if you think Twitter is screaming into the void, Goodreads is the void on mute.
Yes, Goodreads is the peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the jelly. I mean, it's just like it's like what But don't. I will say that I will give everybody a tip about Goodreads. Do not click that you want notifications because all they send you is ads about Goodreads and Amazon. If you do that, and it's like, dude, I don't want to go to your 40th anniversary of your 60th book party. It's not something I'm very interested in. So please, just stop emailing me. It's bad enough I got to weed through 5 million pieces of spam to start with. Maybe they could actually read the books and leave an honest review instead of a troll one. Hey, there's a concept. I'll look at all your buns. All right, cool. And best one of the prequels is an awfully low bar. I couldn't agree more. But, that being said, I think we are at the end of our time here. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. And let's have everybody say their piece and tell everybody where they can find you legitimately and go get your stuff legitimately. So everybody out there, don't be one of those people. Engage and enjoy what these artists are presenting for you. And we'll start with Mr. Myers.
Okay, so again, my name is Erik Christopher Myers. I am the writer and director of the films Butterfly Kisses and Roulette, both of which are streaming for free on Prime and Tubi, or you can buy Blu-rays and put them on the shelf. I've been in some books, as I said, and I also write for Ain't It Cool News. So if you want to read deep dive discussions about things we've talked about today, the Batman franchise, the Star Wars prequels, which I wrote way too much about, and many other things, go to Ain't It Cool News, type in the name EKM, you're going to find me. I always do sort of an outro for all of us here in which I say, and I'm not going to go as deep into it as I normally do because we've touched on it throughout this entire episode. Support indie artists, leave reviews, pay for the things that you get, share, like, put that stuff out there on social media. That is what is going to let all of us filmmakers, authors, musicians, podcasters, whatever, get our stuff out there. I always talk about that a little bit, and I just want to say one final thing that I know I've also belabored in this episode. Speak your fucking truth. You might get suspended from Facebook. You might get suspended from Twitter. Speak your truth, particularly if you are a person of color, if you are a person who is differently abled, if you, whatever your sexual identification is, whoever you are, whatever color you are, however you were made, whether you believe that was by God or random chance, genetics, whatever, speak your truth. And if you see someone who is speaking hate, call them out for that. And if you get smacked down for it, just know that you are on the side of righteousness.
Awesome. Very cool.
Scotch.
All right, Megan, I know that's a tough act to follow, but here we go.
I can follow. I am Megan Morgan. Like I said earlier, I'm the author of The Altered Wake and the upcoming Altered Wake. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Instagram, it's like MMM Writes. Twitter, I think it's like M3 Writes. Facebook, it's just Megan Morgan. And yeah, 100% speak the truth. And also, I think one of the most important things that we do that sometimes we neglect is educate your audience. Don't tear down someone else who's a writer. Don't tear down a genre. Instead, educate people on what is like the good media and how to be a more discerning consumer. That's super important as Facebook moves into this new phase of being an actual news provider. Learn what to look for about what makes sense, not, and become a more discerning consumer. And we as artists, especially indie artists, we made this choice to be independent. We made the choice not to conform to the industry standard. We're here for support each other and to support the art so that people understand that it really is good enough to pay for.
Nice. Awesome. Mr. Gideon?
I am Alexander G.R. Gideon. You can find me under that name on Facebook. Twitter, I am at Alexander Gideon. On TikTok, which I'm actually on, I'm at Alex Gideon Author. Again, first book in my series, A Web of Crimson, is out on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read my book for free. So if you like free shit, there you go. You can get it for free legally. And please leave reviews. I have 6. I have 6 reviews. I can use all the reviews that I can get. So pick my book up on Kindle Unlimited. Leave me a little review. I would be most grateful.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Mr. Estrada?
Well, first off, if you're here, like and smash that subscribe button for Go Indie Now and More Go Indie Goodness, because that is the phrase of this week. Second off, my name is JD Estrada Writer. If you look JD Estrada Writer on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, or the blog jdestrada.writer.blogspot.com, you will find this funky mess of a scruffy author. I have books out. I have 16 books out. They're on all available on Amazon. If you want the physical version, please check Tazas y Portadas. That is a local bookstore from back home. They're lovely people. We're celebrating. Today is actually International Poetry Day. So if you want to have all my poetry, it is in one collection called Recollection that is available at Tazas y Portadas. Get your poetry on. March has still not ended. I have to catch up on March of the Writers. # March of the Writers. Thank you to everyone who's participating in that. Have fun. Don't be a dick. Be kind. And there's beauty in unfollow, mute, and block. So if it gets a bit too much with someone, use them.
All right, let me talk to you real quick. I've got something important to say. As by evidence of the fact that I'm big and in your face in the screen right now, right? Actually, I don't have anything important to say. I am Joe Compton. This is Go Indie Now. You know where you are. If you don't know where you are, learn where you are because it's Go Indie Now, and subscribe and do smash that like button because we want you to do that. But with that being said, I will say there's a reason why I've gone old school today. As you can see, I've gone old school. This was our very first logo, and Mr. JD Estrada has done the same. Put it right there, old school. Yeah, look at that. I see, and I have the same. I have old school, and I have the same old school. And that being said, we're bringing something back. We talked about this on Friday night at Joe's Bar, and I had an inkling of creating something. So in a couple hours over on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitch, actually, well, yeah, it'll just be on YouTube. I will be posting a brand new, yes, wait for it, hashtag Sunday Fun Day. We're bringing it back, everybody. It's been a few years, but I have a brand new tag for everybody to participate. So if you want to check out how to do that, I'll explain it and put it out there. If you don't know how to, if you've never been a tagger before, this is something you can do. And we would love to see everybody participate. The tag, I'll give a little bit of tease for everybody. Today's tag is, of course, it's a corset tag. And I have an incredible, there's a whole story behind it, and you'll learn that story if you watch the video, but that'll be up here in a couple hours. And with that being said, it's always time to go indie now, and we will see you again very, very soon, everybody. In fact, next week. So check us out.